Welcome to the Mastering Business Skills podcast, where we interview successful small business owners who share their own journey, mastering the skills they needed to grow and be successful in their business. Learn the struggles, the wins, and all the things they learned along the way, so you can cut down on your own learning curve.
Welcome to Mastering Business Skills. Today we're talking with Debra Angilletta, a former Wall Street trader with 30 years in finance, now serving as a fractional CFO for high-performing founders. She specializes in turning cash chaos into cash clarity using simple financial systems that make profit predictable, decisions smarter, and growth sustainable. She's the author of Hidden Profits, Stop Chasing Cash, Predictable Profits in 90 Days, a book that shows business owners exactly how to uncover cash leaks, build confidence, and create a more profitable business fast. Welcome to the show, Debra.
Thanks so much, Sharon. It's great to be here with you and to be here with Erin as well.
We're so happy to talk to you because finance is so important. I feel like it's a topic that we all need.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. And, a lot of times people are uncomfortable with those conversations, but we try to make it, palatable for the business owner. And so, and that's what this is all about. So we love to serve people on that level. Make it easy.
Yes.
Right. So what inspired you to change gears from Wall Street to supporting business owners?
Yeah. So sometimes life happens, right? And that catalyst was a baby.
Yeah.
So, when you work on Wall Street, you work a lot of hours. And so, we're here right outside of the New York City area. So my husband and he works on Wall Street as well. He was in technology. And so it was a matter of just time factor, right? So it's like, I'm going to have this baby. Am I going to go back to work? I don't know. I work all these hours, started looking into some help and like an au pair. Well, funny enough, I didn't realize au pairs could only work for so many hours a week. And I'm like, I'm going to be out of hours by Wednesday. Based on how we used to run. So the decision was kind of made for me. So I decided to leave Wall Street and I started my consulting practice and actually turned my employer, which turned into my former employer, but it also turned into my first business gig. So they contracted me and that was my first client, which was fantastic. So that's how it all started.
Oh, wow. I love that. I did that myself when I went into business. One of my past customers at another job actually became one of my first clients because it was a different way of working with them. So
yeah, excellent. Right. Best way to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about hidden profit leaks. What do you find are the ones that most business owners have, and how can they quickly stop that leak?
Yeah, so there are so many. So there's kind of like a hit list that I have. And so some of those, the most popular ones, and I'm sure your listeners will identify with this, we get involved in some of these SaaS subscriptions. And I think the number one I really see is SaaS creep. So you take on a subscription that's going to do something for you in your business, and then you kind of like lose track of time or lose interest or something else happens. But this subscription is still in place and it's billing you every single month. And then what winds up happening about 12 months in, they raise their prices. So before you know, you've got all this money going out, but you're not utilizing any of these subscriptions. So that's one of the biggest places I find, like that's just like a layup, low-hanging fruit for anybody that just wants to go in. Just look at your credit card bill and just see, what's going on, or look at your bank statement, see what's kind of sucking up that money each month. And SaaS creep is real. And that's one of the biggest places. That's just a quick layup where you can clean up real quickly and start putting more money back in your pocket.
Yeah. I agree. I talked about that recently, even with that's one of the first things. I think Sharon does it too with her clients. Like the first thing we do is let's look at what you have and do you actually need it?
And are you using it?
Yeah. I was going to say sometimes they don't even realize that they're paying for it or they're using it.
Yeah. And one of the sneakiest ones I have to tell you, because if anybody has the option to pay a vendor directly, it's better off than going through Apple Pay or any of those types of convenience apps where you can go ahead, because those are the ones that are the sneakiest, because all you're seeing are Apple charges, Apple charges, Apple charges, but you don't know what's behind it. And sometimes it gets very, very hard to untangle from that respect. So that's a real sneaky one.
Yes, and PayPal, because they always have the option pay through PayPal. And then I'll get these like, your PayPal subscription didn't go through. And I'm like, what subscription? Because you can cancel it on the subscription side, but
Right.
unless you go in and cancel it through PayPal or like you said, Apple or one of the other ones, it's still paying out to that company, which is one of the things I never realized until I had that happen to me. And I was like, wait, but I
Yeah.
canceled the subscription. Why is it still
Yeah.
paying it?
Exactly. And then I'd love to share another one because I think this would be really interesting. I'm sure both of you have seen this, is that a lot of times when companies have CRMs, right, their contact management systems, and they have other people and employees and they buy extra seats, guess what? Those employees leave, you get new ones on, you're always adding, but when people exit, you tend not to undo the seat. And so that's another, oh my gosh, I had somebody on HubSpot with like 10 seats, and I think they have 5 people left. Like they were paying through the nose every single month.
Yeah.
HubSpot's great, right? You want to pay them, obviously, but only pay for the seats that you're using, not,
Oh, yeah.
and they won't tell you. And there's a separate spot to unenroll for those seats. So it takes a couple extra steps, but man, there's a lot of money to be saved in those seats.
Yeah. There's a lot of those conniving companies out there like that you never know till you start really digging in and doing an audit.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, even your Google, like when you have your Google Workspace and your extra emails and stuff. What I started doing now is putting SOPs in place for clients for offboarding. So like whether you're offboarding, one of your team or a client or whatever, like let's check the boxes. Are you unengaging from the systems that you're in of theirs? Are you taking them out of systems that you need to? And each client should have a checklist of what, or team member, like what do you have them signed up for with you? What do they have access to? What do you need to change so that whoever, whether it's an admin person, a fractional, something like that, can go in and just take care of unchecking, check off all the boxes and unsubscribing or unchecking all of the additionals that they have.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And so, some business owners might think, well, it's only a couple dollars here and there each month. But if you're looking to try to hire someone, listen, if you want to pay yourself more because you're taking on risk in the business and maybe, your highest paid employee might be making more than you, right? All of this matters. Every dollar that goes out, you want to give it the opportunity to come back to you. And so this is the concept of the hidden profits, because once you recover that could be profits that go directly right into your pocket.
Right. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how simple systems can create predictable profits. So we're all about I know Erin and I are all about systematizing and simplifying. And our audience, I know, would be interested to hear about that.
Yeah, so putting simple systems in place. So here's the thing. Most of us understand some basic accounting. Now, you didn't have to go to school to be a bookkeeper or an accountant, but most people understand the concept of revenue, right? Money coming in minus expenses, that's money coming out, equal profit, right? So that's kind of the simple concept here. But what's really interesting is that in that system that we widely accept, profit tends to come last. And when profit comes last, guess what happens? Most businesses never see it.
Yeah.
So we have to be very, very mindful. So when we're talking about simple systems, we want to make sure that we're focusing on, if we want to have a profitable business, if we want to be paying ourselves, if we want to have money to hire into the future or to build up in the business, right? Reinvest. Then we have to really focus on those profits. So it's putting a system around, not just going with the old equation. It's saying, okay, once money comes in, what can we carve off and generate profits purposely? And then what's left is what we are there to spend for our operating expense. So it really reverses the concept. So for your listeners, you may have heard of a book called Profit First, and that is the Profit First concept. And Mike Michalowicz is a business colleague of mine, so I know that system and implement it widely in my clients. So more specifically with regard to that system, that is a beautiful system to use in order to implement profit. And that's what I built my book around as well, utilizing that system. And then all the other things that come with being a really savvy business owner when it comes to simple ways to start understanding finances on a higher level.
Yeah, Sharon and I actually used Relay Bank, which is one of the only banks that is profit first related. Like, without you can only have so many, so many accounts and so many transfers, and like it's fantastic using that, since we found that it's so much easier to do, the compensation and the what your expenses and your taxes and all of the different things that they talk about in Profit First. Because I read that book years ago, like when it first came out, I think.
Right.
And
yeah, it's a great system. And what's great about Profit First, it's not another accounting system. It's a money management system for business owners, the way that we think, right? Because accountants think differently than business owners do. So this really caters to the mindset of the business owner. And when we're seeing all of our money come into one account, it's very, very hard for us to visualize how we're going to split that money up. Like, this is for payroll, this is for taxes, this is for me, this is for profits, right? But we do use the multiple bank account system in order to subject out that money into, or allocate that money into the different accounts, because then it's transparency for the business owner. We're very, very clear. $10,000 is in the account. Listen, anything we see in the operating account, we're like, oh, it's a good day, I can go spend, right? Like, we're just wired like that. And so, and it's fun too, right? We're like, ooh, I can do this, I can do that, I can go invest in this, right? So, but all that money isn't there to spend. So then once we do our allocations, and if we have $5,000 left to make our decisions on, we're already ahead of the game. So that's when we're talking about simple systems. How much simpler can it get than bucketing bank accounts and going and doing your allocations, knowing what's available to spend? Can't be more simple than that. And you don't have to go to school to be an accountant to do it.
Yes. And Relay's dashboard is awesome because you can see all of it. You go on your accounts and you can see every single thing and how much money is in each area. So it's, I love that feature.
Yeah, Relay is great for that. And they also have a feature where you can set the allocations automatically. So you can put it on autopilot, which is good too. So
know that.
check that one out.
I did not either.
Yeah, that's fun. You'll have fun diving into that one.
Yeah, we'll definitely be looking into that one.
Right.
So I have a question. If a listener today, let's say they have 30 minutes today that they can go through and think about this, what profit check should be their priority? What should be the number one thing they do in that 30 minutes?
I think that is a great question. So when it comes to a profit check or something that they can do to generate profits, the one thing is to get started, and this is what I tell everybody, take 1% of every dollar that comes into your business, carve it off and put it into a separate account. It's one of the simplest things you can do. Doesn't seem like a lot of money, right? Just depends on what's coming in, but you're starting to implement a process or a system. You are forcing profitability in your business. It doesn't get more simpler than that. So that is the one thing you can do. Just get started with 1%. And then when you get comfortable with that, ratchet it up, right? Go from 1% to 10%. That's the range. And so just take it automatically and make sure you carve it off to the side and then make your decisions on what's left over here. Game changer. Absolute game changer for your business, and forces profitability. Not back with the traditional, what we call GAAP accounting equation, revenue minus expenses equals profit, because the profit never happens unless we generate it on purpose. And that does that.
Right. It's funny that you say that because that throws me back. My dad was an accountant. And so I remember growing up, I mean, I always had to help him every year do like people in the church, their taxes. And, I remember doing things like that. But I remember him always saying, when you get paid, you put 10% here, 5% here, 3% here. I mean, I remember that now very clearly. And it's like, wow, I wish I'd been paying more attention then, done it then, the way that he was saying. But yeah, no, that's great advice. That's great advice.
Yeah, and it works. It works.
As long as you don't touch it.
That's a different conversation. But at least get you started and it starts exercising that muscle of just carving things out and allocating, putting it to the side. Not spending it, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
We can
yeah.
lock down those accounts. I like to say, TD Bank, it says it's the most America's most convenient bank. I always like to say, make it the most inconvenient bank so you lock it down, you can't touch
Yes.
it. Unless the bank manager comes out themselves and said, you can take this money. So once again, that's a
Right.
whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, Sharon and I actually just had that discussion yesterday as we were going over. We always meet and we do our our strategy and our goals and everything. And that was one of the conversations we had was putting that like making sure that you always have that like savings that you can't actually access really easily and you can't see it easily. So it's in a different bank. So you're not like, oh, well,
Right.
that's there. I can move it to here for this purpose or whatever, because it's in a different bank that you're not necessarily looking at all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
You almost forget it's there. So then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then it's, when you do realize it, you go, oh, I forgot I had this money.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you find that separate bank that is hard to make that money accessible. Like you said, I mean, I know my husband and I have a bank that is separate from our main bank, but we have another one and we love that bank. It's very secure. But if I ever want to transfer money from one bank to the other, it's a 2-week minimum.
Wow.
Unless I go down and do it, pull money out and take it to the other bank. And I'm not going to do that because I don't want to have to get out and go do that.
Yeah. So I
No
guess
impulse shopping.
I know, right? So I guess it's a matter of looking up like the worst banks for convenience and go there.
Yeah, exactly. But
I
that
love it.
is one of the features that I do love about that bank because it does make it a little harder to access that money that we put in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree wholeheartedly on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So, can you share with us your top 3 strategies from your book, Hidden Profits?
Ooh, where do we start? Okay. So I think that it's really important. Number one, I will give you 3 of those. So the first thing is make sure that you have the right entity that you're working with in your business. So whether you're a sole proprietor, LLC, S corp, but I think the bigger thing is that making sure that, because I know business owners like to do this, make sure you're separating out your business from personal life and making sure that there's a clear division between the two. Now, I see people using personal credit cards for business all the time and things like that, but start separating out because you want to see, if you start commingling, then it becomes very, very difficult to see if the business is working for you or if you're working for the business. When all of this gets commingled, from a legal standpoint, you don't want to commingle because then you put yourself out there from a risk standpoint legally, right? We don't want to breach that. But more importantly, we have to make sure we understand what the business is doing, the inflows, the outflows, and it gets very, very difficult when we start intertwining our personal life in the business. So that's really the first thing. Second thing is managing cash flow. So what I like to say is get paid sooner and get paid often. So I love to tell this little story. So back when I started out a long time ago, so this is going to show my age, but back in 1994, I worked in a high net worth financial planning office. And so we had an office manager. So why this is significant is because back in 1994, we didn't have the technology that we do today. How we got paid was good old check, right? Does anybody remember those big old checks? You'd have that big book, the deluxe book you would open up deluxe checks, right? In the leather bound book, right? And you'd have these big fat checks, and that's how you knew the business checks from the and then you'd have that little coupon on the side with the right? So that's how people would pay bills. So how we got paid is that checks would come in the mail. So our office manager had this routine, and this is why I'm going to tell this story about cash flow because it is relevant. She would go out about 11 o'clock every day, go to the P.O. box, get the checks, separate out the checks from the expenses, right? Any of the bills that came in. Back then, all your bills came in the mail. We didn't have this email stuff. We had email, but not for bills and things like that, like straight up old school. So the second stop our office manager would make is she would go and deposit the checks in the account. Third stop was back at the office, Then what she was left with were the bills, and then she would take them and put them in a folder and then repeat it every day after that. Now, here's the difference. She would do the same thing every day. So what that was doing is that was filling up the business account with money. So we were flush with cash. So what it did was it forced our cash flow to come in and our money to come in really early in the month. So we were having money come in before we had any expenses go out. Because what she did with those bills that came in last week of the month, she'd start separating it out and then slowly start writing checks so that money was going out at the end of the month. So what she did is she had an old school cash flow system. She made sure all her money went in and then money came out last so that you could see and make sure that you were on the right side of cash flow. But now today, technology, although sometimes it's easier to get money in with ACHs and accepting credit cards and everything else, it's a double-edged sword because it happens to us as well. You'll notice this, right, where maybe you have some ACHs or credit card payments like auto bills, right? So now this gets back to the SaaS, right? It all goes back to the SaaS stuff, right? The SaaS creep. You've got things hitting your account all different times of the month. And how you wrangle this is you want to make sure you're on the right side of the cash flow equation. You want all your money to come in first and then expenses to go out last. Many times the expenses are going out first and then the money's coming in after that. That's what you call a cash flow problem. And I'm sure everybody's experienced that. But in the book, we basically go through how you can manage cash flow and have your money come in sooner and really replicate what our office manager did back in the day. And then third is to make sure that you are generating profits and using that foundational model of profit first. And then we built onto that in the book as well. So making sure you're taking your profits, that's really the third pillar there.
Cool. So I've got a question again. What of those three strategies do you think that most people either have the most resistance to or they have the most difficulty with?
It's cash flow. Always cash flow. And here's why. Because the cash flow problem never truly goes away. Now, I don't want to put kind of a darkness over it, right? That it's you're never going to resolve it. You do resolve it, but you resolve it until you get to the next income level. So it's kind of like new level, new devil, up, new cash flow problem.
Right.
So because a lot of times people are able to manage the dollars when they get, 100,000 is kind of like the first break point, 250, 500, 750, a million. There's just different problems, right? And so a lot of times people can handle the money, but once they get up to that next break point, the business owner either is able to handle it or not, gets over their head. So that's why the cash flow problem always creeps back up. It's just in a different way at the different levels.
Right.
So you get cash flow dialed in, but then it creeps up again, and then you just have to attack it differently. So that's why I would say cash flow, it's a system, it gets solved for a period of time, but then you have to revisit it.
Cool. Yeah. I figured that was probably the one that was the hardest, that you would say was the hardest.
Yeah, because as your business grows and you're scaling, staffing is going to scale with that. So you have to do everything in tandem. So that's where you've got to get really, really refined on your cash flow game and really being able to dial that in. When you're not running that kind of a model and you're just kind of up and building, there's a lot of forgiveness in that. As long as you kind of get the basics down, like what I told in that story, then you're good to go.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Makes sense.
I actually, when I moved to Delaware, I was assistant manager for a restaurant, like just a couple days a week to help them out. And they still did the paper checks because I remember saying they were like an hour away. And if I wasn't working on a payday or whatever, I was like, well, can't you just do direct deposit? No, we have paper check. Like we give you a paper check and we stick it in an envelope and you have to drive to the restaurant and pick it up and then go. And I was like, and then I would mobile deposit at my bank. My bank would be like, well, now we have to hold it for like 6 days. And I was like, what is going on? Why can't you just do direct deposit?
Yeah. But that's the reason why cash flow got so screwed up, and it's really technology. So once again, blessing, curse, but you just have to know how to handle it. And we've never been taught this before. Like, we have to really be able to wrangle these automated payments and withdrawals that are coming out, like we don't really think about it too much. So, but paying attention to it, that's going to be the game changer.
Yeah, yeah. What I recently found too, I have a client, we changed membership platforms. And so we had everything changed over, everything was done. And then I kept seeing, because we had changed like our pricing and everything, and I was still seeing payments come in, like renewals come in at the old pricing or whatever the old pricing was. And I was like, what is going on? Because even though we did everything on the membership side, Stripe still had the subscription set up that way. So they were just automatically doing it. And I was like, so then I went in and I took out all of these subscriptions from before, and I still randomly every once in a while have one, and I'm like, I don't know where they are. I don't know where it's coming from.
Technology, oh my gosh, it is really, love-hate relationship, but
Yep.
That's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's next for your business?
Yeah. So what we're doing is making sure that we get this book out there, and it's released now, which is great, Hidden Profits. And so what's next is making sure that we can get this book in people's hands. And the reason why is because most small businesses don't have an opportunity to work with a CFO. Typically, we work on the higher level companies and supporting them, so they don't really have access to people like me. So that what I really loved about writing this book is being able to write it for the business owner. Listen, if you're just starting out, you're going to get value out of it. If you've been in business for 2-3 years, you're anywhere between 100,000 and $500,000, you're going to get so much more out of it because you're going to be in it and you're going to understand. We tell a lot of stories and share a lot of other people's experiences, so you can find yourself in one of those stories and what to do next. And then those people who have really catapulted past the $500,000, right? Those are some people that we do work on one-on-one, but I love that we have this. It's really put together in a very, very simplistic format, talks on a business owner level, not an accounting level, because people are scared to have those conversations. Because listen, I love accountants. Why? Because they are the big brains. I want a big brain working on my numbers. But when it comes to strategically looking at how to run the business and moving forward, sometimes they're not so good at that. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But this really talks about the strategy around how to take those numbers in a very simplistic way and how to read those numbers in a way that can be empowering for you to be able to make the right decisions and next steps. And what I also love about it, no spreadsheets. There's no spreadsheets in this book. So there's a lot of tools that people are going to have access to, and it's all Word docs, and it's kind of like paint by number. So that's what I love. I love the simplicity of it, but I also love giving them access to someone who's a CFO who they normally wouldn't have access to, so they can up-level their own knowledge and thinking.
That is so valuable. That truly is.
And that's it's amazing. Fun. It's really fun to be able to serve people on this level.
I can't wait to read the book.
Is the book on Amazon now, or?
Yes, it will be available on Amazon. Yes.
Sweet. All right. Well, I will definitely be getting that.
Yes.
Good deal.
Well, Debra, thank you so much for spending the time with us today and going over that, because
absolutely,
I know finance it's especially as a small business owner, it's something that you want to easily understand in the most simple way, because sometimes it can get a little involved if you're, depending on your scaling, like you said, or what you're doing with it. Yeah. I feel like that holds a lot of small business owners back too. It's the finance part. Like, what do I invest in? What do I risk? What do I not risk? Like all of those questions. So I am very excited about the book, and I know that our audience is going to get so much value from it.
That's great. I'm so thrilled. And you want to know, we actually have something that we'd love to give away, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we actually, you'll probably have the link in the show notes, but over on our site, findmyhiddenprofits.com, you're going to see that you're going to be able to download for free the first 5 chapters of the book. So it does give you a little taste and a little value. So everybody will be able to go ahead and do that as well. So my gift to you guys.
Yay. That's awesome. And yes, we are going to have that in the show notes as well as your LinkedIn. So people can reach out to you, ask questions, connect with you, all of that. And for everybody listening, thank you for joining us. And we hope you will join us next time on our next episode next week. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks, Deborah.
Thanks, ladies. Appreciate it.